December 18th. It's slight about a focus me. See if that's a little bit better. Oh, look how bright and cheerful we look tonight. How's everybody doing? We're just sitting here waiting for people to log in. We have 0 viewers at this time. There's no reason we can't talk, though. We're coming here from the lovely B Estate owned by Bernie B. My name is Eric Weber. I am the owner of Exclusive Design by Emporium. I work with a glass blowing partner. His name is Justin Ferrer, and the name of his glass studio is the Orlando Glass Blowing Center, located in Longwood, New York. Longwood, Florida. I don't even know what town I'm in. Longwood, Florida. Anyway, it's been a stressful day. I will explain things when we get done, but I had promised to talk, and we're going to give a talk. I'm just going to start talking about things as people jump in, and we might go over things twice. If you've tuned in early, I will let you know when we reach the repeat portion of the broadcast, and we'll take it from there. But this is our second live. I do apologize for kind of scheduling it at the last possible second. I did not mean to do that. But as I said, we've had quite a week here in Florida. So anyway, let's talk about next year. What is going to be happening in 2023? Most of you know that we had some health issues concerning me personally. I had to have both of my hips replaced this year. They did the surgeries in July and October. I'm doing much better. I feel great, and I'm able to start showing up at the studio again. We're not doing anything else for Christmas right now, but we've started making plans for the new year. I was lucky yesterday. We were able to actually create some sample pieces that I'm very excited to show you, and we'll be talking about those tonight. I'm also going to show you some Fenton cullet that I have purchased that I'm going to be using to be making the glass, which means I'll be able to use Fenton molds and Fenton glass to make Emporium product, but you'll see that it will look very familiar to you. Probably the one I'm most excited about is a piece that I have not been able to make before. This piece that you're looking at in beautiful cobalt is the double wedding ring optic. Let me bring it right up to the camera. It's a double wedding ring optic. Fenton used these primarily to make lamps and larger items. As you can see, it is a quite large mold. We have done this here in cobalt. I did not have time to do finishing work on this because we have not set up that portion of the studio yet, but I really am liking this shape, and it's either going to be cut off right here at the top of the design or possibly a little bit above, and we might play a little bit with this plain area to smooth that out. Anyone who's been around for a while, or if you're watching this in future, we did use this particular optic mold to do a swung vase. We were able to get about 16 and a half, 17 inches in that swung vase, and it was really pretty. But look at the color of this cobalt. Now, this is a color from Orlando Glass Center. It is not a color that was used by Fenton, but it's really pretty. Now that I have the ability to iridize glass, I think I would iridize this. I think it would really bring out the pattern and make a truly gorgeous piece. But here is item number one that we can talk about. Another piece that we were able to make as a sample so that you could see is one of the Verlies vases. Now, you will know this, anyone that's a Fenton collector, Fenton called this the grasshopper vase. In French, it actually was called the moth vase because these are moths, and you can see they're coming up out of grass. You can see the grass leaves coming up and going behind each of the moths. And it's an early summer evening, and they are flying up in the air. The traditional finish on this vase, I'll show you the cutoff, would be approximately a 1/4 inch neck at the top of the vase. And that is how we're going to be cutting those off. This is how the piece would look after it's blown on the blowpipe. The pipe would be right here. We create what's called a jack line and use a little bit of water on a pair of tweezers to create some very minute fractures around this circle. We take it over to the table to dislodge the piece, slight tap on the pipe up above, and the glass separates right here. What I need to do to finish this piece is take it through our wet saw to cut this excess glass off, and then I will use a lap grinder, which is a flat disc grinder, and I will smooth out where I have cut and given a real shiny finish. But you can see this is a beautiful piece all the way around. We call this color champagne. It's a really pretty light gold color. I'll be putting pictures up on my website. I'll put them up here on YouTube also so that you can see. But the pattern, everything on this vase, it came out beautifully. Another fun vase we were able to work on, and again, I was not able to put the finishing touches on this vase. This is called the Leaves vase. I'm going to turn it so that you can see the pattern. It's a very Art Deco looking vase. However, this was designed and manufactured by Fenton in the 1990s. They hired an artist to come in to do some design work for them. Again, I think I will be iridizing these when they go into production, but we were working in cobalt, so cobalt it is. The vase itself is about 8 inches tall, and again, right at the top, this excess glass that you see here, all of that would be cut off, and the top of the vase would be polished. Again, you can see the bottom. It's got a very nice base. There's no punty mark on these because we do not have to do a transfer onto a punty rod to dislodge. We literally blow the vase in the vase mold. It's removed from the mold, and then we dislodge the piece from the blowpipe, and we put it in the annealing oven to finish. And this is the Fenton Leaves vase. The only production that I know of this vase, and I certainly welcome information if someone knows something else, is they did this in topaz opalescent with a plum crust for the 100-year or historical collection. Hey, how are you? How are you? Yes, this vase is really pretty. This was one of the very first ones we tried to sample, and I had a terrible time sampling it, and we've kind of put it away. But we have figured out how to blow this vase. This one, again, I will repost the stories because I wrote about this over a year ago. This vase was heavily damaged with rust, and I had to go through with stone tools and a Dremel tool to try to knock off the rust and smooth out where the vase had pitting to bring it back to life. And I must say it looks really pretty. I'm pleased with the job that we got done. So let's move on to the next piece to look at. Since we were in the cobalt, I decided to do this moth vase again. I will be referring it to the moth vase as I advertise and sell it because it is the original name of the piece. Good idea with vinegar, but we're talking about the cast iron molds themselves, hon. There are products that remove rust. The problem with this particular vase, it was exposed to the elements, and meaning outside, and there was water that had run down inside the vase, and there was actually rust growing on the iron itself. So we had to treat it very carefully. I was worried for a long time we would not be able to save the vase, but we were able to save the vase. Again, this is that Verlies mold from 1925 done in cobalt. I most likely, again, would be doing an iridized on a color this small. I would iridize it. What's kind of interesting with the top, you'll notice it's got a very small opening. And I was wondering that this might make a wonderful diffuser vase that you could put scented oil inside if the neck were this tight, and put in your diffusing reeds, and you'd have a very pretty diffuser. Prettiest one on the block. And if I'm moving a little funny, my neck is extremely sore right now. It's very stiff. I have a really unusual piece here. Anyone familiar with West Virginia is going to recognize what this says. I realize for you it's backwards, but it says Ogleby Wheeling, or Ogleby Wheeling. This is a wax impression I made of the mold. I took the mold, closed it up, and melted literal candle wax because I wanted to see what this would actually look like as a bottle. You can see it's quite small, maybe 5 inches tall. It's only about 1 3/4 inches thick at its thickest point. But I thought this would make a really cute bottle with some historical significance. And on the bottom, if I can get it to show, you can see the original Imperial Glass logo. I would like to leave that logo on there. However, I will be marking all of these pieces that I make. As you know, I put the Emporium name on. I'm proud of the pieces that I own. I'm proud of the history of them. But I also would like to make sure people know who made these pieces. So look for this violin bottle. I think it would be great to use for potions, really anything. This would make a nice perfume bottle too. I know more than one person has complimented this color. It really was a pillar candle that I got at Goodwill that was a clear candle, but it had lavender on the outside. As I melted it and when it cooled, it turned into this color. But if I can find something that will come out this color, I will make the bottle this color. It would make a very nice perfume bottle. Another mold that I did an impression of, some of you may have seen. This is a very, very early Fenton mold. It's got a honeycomb pattern. This mold actually has 6 hinges because of the depth and the intricacy of the pattern. There are 6 individual parts to the mold, the same as the hobnail mold. Now, this was labeled in the inventory as a cruet bottle. So this would have been opened up slightly. They would have put a lip on one end and then added a handle. If you were collecting Fenton glass in the early to mid 2000s, this was one of the molds that they used for the La Ti Da catalytic effusion scent bottles that they sold. These are still quite collectible when you see them on eBay or on the open market. They're over $100 to collect the La Ti Da bottles. But I wanted to get a good wax impression of these so that we can see what they look like. Another fun one, and I have not used this mold very often. This is another early Fenton mold. This is ribbed melon. It's a 4-inch mold. And what Frank L. Fenton did in the 1940s, they took where this ribbing is located and they actually carved out the beads to make beaded melon. Originally, Fenton called this bead and melon, and then through, I think, probably public use, it became known as beaded melon. But the base part itself, again, is just up to here. This is the extra neck for when you are blowing the piece. We did make some really wonderful votives out of this, and I do plan on using this shape again, but I wanted to get a good wax impression so that we know exactly what the piece looks like. So this is 1920s Fenton cast iron mold, ribbed melon. What I think is interesting when you see this as a wax mold, you can see how deep the carving is for the design, knowing that as they inflated this and blew it out and hand worked it, you're going to lose some of that pattern. They made sure that they started off with a very deep pattern with these pieces. Now this is a fun one. There is some story behind this. This pattern is called diamond lace. This is an optic mold. I did a wax impression of it as the mold is shaped. They would insert the bubble in this mold, inflate it to pick up this pattern, and then it would be blown into another shape. I think it'd make a really pretty pillar candle though. I know these look kind of dirty. What you're looking at is the carbon that is in the molds themselves that stuck to the wax. This is about 7.5 inches tall. But I thought this would make a dynamite candle, just all on its own. Put a wick in there. I think you'd have a really nice candle. This particular optic I did for myself. I wanted to see what it would look like. And this is the Fenton Daisy and Fern. It makes it really easy to identify this. If you look at the daisies, when Fenton had this mold created, all of the daisies have a little bit of swirl to them to the left. And the original Northwood daisy fern, the daisy petals were straight. And what Fenton did to make this a little bit different, they had the flowers turning as if they were whirling. But again, this makes a beautiful impression. I think this would make a great candle. And again, the way you tell when you look at the optic pattern, I'm going to pull this up close. You can see with these flowers how the petals are turning, almost like the flower is whirling. If you look at the petal portion of the daisy, if the daisy petals come straight out from the center, you're looking at the Northwood optic. If they swirl, you're looking at the Fenton version. Now, L.G. Wright did own the daisy fern optic mold from Northwood. And you may find pieces that are not Northwood. They would not have a mark on them if Fenton made them, or they might have the N on them. Cy Wright was famous for not wanting to remove the original molds. But Frank Fenton said absolutely not. If Fenton was making it, they were not going to leave a different glass manufacturer. But that is one way. You got a little history lesson just now. That is one way with this optic pattern. The easiest way to tell them apart, just look at the flowers before you even look at the color and the shape. Just the shape of the flower itself will give you a lot of information. The other thing I'm very excited to let everybody know is that I bought Fenton cullet. This is a sample. We're using the cullet to try to blow color in the studio. This is Fenton's Sky Blue. and we are going to be able to work this. It came out a real pretty color. It was very easy to work with too. I really like this color. It's a nice, simple pale blue. I plan on doing the release molds in this color, and we'll see. However long the color lasts, that's how long I'll be using it. Another color that I purchased is Fenton Ruby. It's a beautiful, beautiful transparent red. And I kind of wrecked the bubble, but we were in a hurry and I just wanted to get the color melted in. Sometimes when you work in a glass studio, it's not all pretty what we did, but this Fenton Ruby is absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful, transparent. We do think it's going to work with the glass that we use. I don't want to get too scientific about it, but different glasses have different compatibility factors built right into them because of the chemical composition. And sometimes they work well together and sometimes they don't. But those are two of the colors that I purchased. Another color that I was able to get a good stock of, I don't know if it's going to show because it's looking very blue here. This is the Fenton Lavender. Might be able to see if I come back a little bit. It's opaque lavender. You may have to look up online because these lights are too bright. It's a real pretty pale opaque lavender color. On my screen, it's coming across as blue, but it is a very pale lavender, perfect for Easter. Perfect for Easter. This is another color I've bought quantities. So as I said, the total amount of glass color I bought to use is 1,100 pounds. The other color I am very excited about using is the Fenton Rosaline, that milk glass that turns pink. Let me hold this up. I kind of grabbed some chunks out of the shipping boxes that came to me. But I have Rosaline that I can work with. I also have Fenton Blue. It's a medium blue. And to show you what I work with, these are the chunks of glass. And what we do in the studio, we have color pots, what are called a color pot. They hold anywhere from 10 to 30 pounds, depending on the size. I load this cullet into the color pot in a kiln, and then we heat the glass until it melts, and the color pot stays in that kiln, and we use it just like a glass gathering tank. And we just keep adding, as long as it stays hot, we keep adding more color to the pot, let it melt overnight, and then the next day when we come in, we actually have a liquid color that we can work with. What's fun and kind of sad when I go through the boxes of color is sometimes you find animals that didn't make it. This little poor guy lost his ear, went all the way through iridizing. Look at that beautiful Fenton color. And then the poor little guy's ear broke off. And I don't have the heart to get rid of them. So probably I'm going to have a rogues gallery of broken animals. I can polish the bottom of this off so that he will sit up straight. But I don't mind a dog with a little broken ear. The iridizing on this was probably done with ferric oxide. That's where you get those golds and reds in the coloring. But yeah, I have a whole bunch of little Scotty dogs lying around. I got nothing to do. Nothing to do. I see we have somebody else join the room. Who's here? Say hello if you're in the room. Excuse me, I'm going to get a drink of water here. I do have something funny to show you, but I need to step away for a second. So hold on, and I'll be right back. Well, it looks like, oh, let me sit back down. It looks like it got up and ran away because I do not see it. I also have this color you can see. This is Fenton Orange Slice. That beautiful orange color. They came out with this color just before Fenton closed. I was able to get a good quantity of it. I've been telling everybody I'll be ready for Halloween for the next 20 years. I'll be able to make stuff. So again, we've got opaque lavender. Opaque lavender. We've got Fenton ruby. We have Fenton sky blue. We have the Fenton Rosaline, that beautiful kind of pink milk glass. I've got some orange slice. I have a Fenton Cobalt. You saw the puppy dog. Let's bring him back. That's a beautiful cobalt color. You can see it shining through his ear. That beautiful, rich Fenton Cobalt. And I'm wondering if this is also a Favrine piece where they could bring the silver out and then iridized on top of that. So all in all, we've got some fun things happening come spring. I'm going to show this vase off again, only because I like it so much. This vase, Fenton, called Leaves. I'll turn it a little bit so you can see the pattern. It's very Art Deco looking. When I first got the vase, I thought it was an older style vase. And a bunch of friends and I were racking our brains because none of us recognized the shape. We did not recognize the design. And yet it looked so much like something from the late 1920s, early 1930s. But Fenton created this vase in the mid-1990s. Again, I've only seen it in production in one color, and that was Topaz Opalescent, iridized, and it had a plum crest. But here is the vase in the flesh, and I will be making this in the spring. This is going to be one of the ones we're going to bring out, really because it's not as familiar. People do not know this vase as well as some of the other Fenton vases, but it is a very pretty vase. And then the other big surprise right now for tonight is this beautiful double wedding ring. Let me turn it a little bit. There we go, so that you can see the pattern. And this just makes a really pretty squat vase. I could turn this into a jug. As I mentioned, we also can turn this into a swung vase. What we would do is pull this out of the mold. We would reheat the entire piece in the glory hole, transfer it onto a punty rod, and then using a Jack's tool, we could open up this so that it came straight up, straight-sided, and then we would apply more heat and start swinging the vase, and it would gradually get longer and longer and longer. And you'd keep this wonderful wedding ring pattern on the bottom, and then the piece would just start stretching up. And we'll start working on these in January. We're going to get through the Christmas season. Because of Christmas and New Year's, it's extremely busy at the studio. And we don't have a lot of time to do our type of production work because we're teaching workshops. The expansion is coming along great. We have a second glory hole almost set up and ready to go. And once that happens, I will be in. I'll be able to do a lot more production because I won't have to wait until there's space in between classes. But I think this is a really pretty shape for a vase. It's about 6 inches wide and about 6 inches tall. So it's a good sized piece. And I think it's going to look great no matter what color you put it in. I'm also toying with the idea of turning this into an actual candle. I'll just have it made out of beeswax naturally because Bernie Bee is our logo, and this is a honeycomb pattern jar, but we could cut it off right at the neck with a wick, and you could have a beautiful honeycomb candle. And again, you can see the pattern is very deep on these pieces. But look how beautifully they fit together. You can barely see the seams. There's one, there's two, there's three, there's four, and five. But this is so well put together, even just using wax. Just pouring hot wax into the mold. It still made this beautiful of a shape. Absolutely stunning. I did not show this piece. You don't normally see this caprice vase looking this way. Fenton did a lot where they turned this into a pitcher and worked the top of it so that you don't see this pattern so much. But this is the complete Cambridge caprice vase. And again, I did a wax impression of it so that we can see exactly what it looks like. I will be running this in this shape. It will have this type neck, and you'll be able to see this design. I think it's rather pretty. This one would also make a really nice candle because the top, as you can see, is quite thick. I think this would make a really pretty candle too. And that really is about all I've got for tonight, other than showing this one off again as a potential candle. Again, I think this would make a dynamite pillar candle. It's diamond lace pattern. And I think this would look really pretty as a candle. It's got a really neat design, the crisscross with the little hobs right in the center. And if you missed at the beginning, these look really dirty because they're picking up, the wax is picking up the carbon that is inside the mold. And this mold has not been used for many, many decades. So we're looking at old time carbon on these molds. And that's about it. That is about it tonight. I'm ending it a little bit early. I know I talked about having some stuff to sell, but it turns out we sold a whole bunch of Christmas ornaments and candy canes over the weekend that I did not know of. I am not going to do a live sale next week because it's the day after Christmas. I will, however, be doing one on the 1st. January 1st. Let's kick off for the new year. So we're going to take 1 week off for the live sales, but look for them to be scheduled regularly. I'm going to be doing them at 9 p.m. every Monday. It's a Manic Monday sale. I promise I will get better at putting the notices up so that you see them and can schedule them. You'll see them on Emporium, the place to be. You'll see them on Exclusive Design by Emporium. I also will get them posted on the YouTube channel. So we've got some wonderful new mold shapes that are going to go into production. And we're working right now on making all of these vases using Fenton Cullet, which I think would be really exciting to be able to offer these molds in the original Fenton glass. I'm going to keep buying it until we can't buy it anymore. As I said, I bought 1,100 pounds of glass and brought it down here to Florida. So I am set for a while. I'll be able to make some vases for quite some time. You have a wonderful Christmas too. I'm so glad you tuned in. And I am going to sign out for now, but this will be able to be viewed again. If you're watching this in the future, trust me, it's all going to happen, and have a very happy Christmas. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.